boardroom. This is the business of esports. As the prophet of esports, I rely on trustworthy and meaningful data every day. Data from our research partner YouGov offers the most complete view of esports fans and gamers in the world, providing context to who they are, what they think, the brands they buy, and things they do. YouGov's connected insights and research services inform strategy at every level. If you're a team, a brand, agency, or rights holder, you should be talking with YouGov. Their partners measure and maximize ROI and are telling compelling stories with data. Visit yougov.com/gaming-esports to learn more. From the keyboard to the boardroom, this is the Business of Esports weekly news show / post-podcast live stream. I am Paul Dewalibi. I'm joined today by my friends and co-hosts, Lindsay the Boss Poss, Jeff the Juice Cohen, and Jimmy Barada. For those of you who are new here, welcome. What we do here is we cover the most pressing gaming and esports topics and news of the week, but we look at all of it through a business and C-suite lens. We dissect, we analyze the business implications of everything happening in this industry. And the best part about this live stream and this weekly news show is we do it live with you guys. So you get to ask questions, get in our faces, challenge us, guide the discussion, however you want to get involved. We encourage it. We know so many of you, hundreds of you, literally, lurk and watch, and that's okay. We still appreciate it. We love having you here, but we welcome you to chat, get involved, and contribute. Goyo, welcome. Goyo says hello, everyone. Lindsay, Jeff, Jimmy, how you guys doing? Lindsay, let's start with you.
Guys, I'm doing great. I played basketball last night, and I was absolutely cooking everyone. Like, I hit a between the legs step back three, and one game I actually did not miss a shot. I was like back to my glory days. And let me tell you, it was worth it, but I'm paying for it today.
What's bringing you back, Lindsay, is the question.
A bunch of my friends just started from high school, just started playing again, and silly them. You know, I beat up, it's me and a bunch of guys, and they always tease me because when I was younger, I beat them up so bad. And I was always the one scoring like tons and tons, and they brought me back, and it's been the same story. And I'm like, nothing's changed. It's been so fun for me.
Making, embarrassing people on the court. I like it. I condone this.
Yeah, just reminds me of why I got to play in college. So it's been fun.
That's pretty awesome.
How you
I'm doing well. I got a new hat this week, so I'm pretty excited about it. Now I'm wearing it. For those of you watching, for those of you listening, you can't see it. Could you tell them
about the hat, because they missed the backstage discussion around the hat? I think you should push the hat.
Yeah, I got it on the internet. I forgot the website, but it came from Sweden, so you know it's good.
So you know it's good. It's a Swedish
It's made
hat.
out of, it's like oil skin. It's nice and slick. So it looks like the hat that they wear in Succession. It's pretty cool. I'm gonna wear it to all my meetings now. So I'm a hat guy now. Pretty cool.
Big week for both of us.
big week.
Yeah, I mean, we all have accomplishments this week, I would say.
Goyo says that's a hat a celebrity who didn't want to be recognized would wear.
I think that's a great description. I mean, that's pretty awesome. I think that's cool.
It's true. It's very nondescript, right? No logo, no nothing. I like it.
You can wear that to all the esports conferences and conventions when you don't want people to like run up, juice, we need a hot take. You know, like, no, please, I'm in my incognito hat. I'm just Jeff here.
It's Mr. Juice to you.
Jimmy, how's it going?
Like Lindsay, I got back into athletics. I played.
What's with everyone going back to sports they played?
Everyone's
like
playing meat sports. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Meat sports.
I probably played eight or 10 rounds of golf this weekend. PGA 2K21 to be exact.
There it is.
And it was fantastic. I have to say, I missed it.
I I hear you're going on vacation this weekend.
I am going to Chicago for the weekend. I'm going to go to a Chicago Bears game. I'm going to eat a lot of pizza.
And you're missing a day of work for this?
2 days actually.
Oh boy. All
A
right.
Friday and a Monday, which are, high productivity days, I think.
Jimmy slacking
Yeah.
already.
Uh-huh.
Guys, we have such a good show today. Before we jump into it, a couple of things. One, the podcast this week, we had Wes Bird on the podcast. He's the CEO of Skulls. If you guys don't know Skulls, that's Skulls with a Z at the end. They produce a whole bunch of apparel for esports teams. They produce their own apparel and gear, including chairs and backpacks and stuff for gamers. Some really cool stuff. It was an interesting conversation around, obviously, the apparel side of esports, but it was also an interesting conversation around high school esports, where they do a lot with high schools to produce jerseys for high school esports teams and things like that. And I thought it was a very interesting conversation. So definitely tune into that this week. It's going to be a great episode. You guys will enjoy it. I will also say, because the beauty of me being in the top left square here is I get to pat myself on the back at the top of the show. Some of you may have seen, I will just say this, I pointed this out. We have a Discord on the side here. Some of you may have seen this. It was a Bloomberg article, which I can't show the whole article because I'm not subscribed. I have Bloomberg Terminal subscription, but believe it or not, that doesn't give you access to their articles. Metaverse is a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity, Epic CEO says, which I think is exciting, right? Because we're all sort of pushing in this space now. I just thought it was interesting that Epic CEO came out and said this, because for any of you who follow the business of esports long enough, you'll remember that September 13, 2019, I published this article, Gaming is the Future of Fun, a manifesto. And I mentioned, there was a section here at the end where I specifically said, and I'll read it, these virtual worlds will essentially be a form of gaming, and thus gaming becomes the future of all fun and social networks. I laugh when I hear people talk about gaming esports being a multi-billion-dollar industry. The future of gaming is a multi-trillion-dollar industry. Gaming essentially becomes the largest industry on the planet. It only took Tim Sweeney 2 years to catch up to my thinking, which is nice. It took a while, but people finally get caught up to the prophet here. I do want to start, though, with an article about Tim Sweeney that's not just me patting myself on the back, guys. And that is, I don't know if any of you saw this, but I picked up the Mac Rumors one here. And the headline here is, Epic Games CEO renews attack on Apple and calls for single universal app store. So supposedly he came out and he said, I'll read it here. What the world really needs right now is a single store that works with all platforms. Right now, software ownership is fragmented between the iOS App Store, the Android Google Play Marketplace, different stores on Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, and then Microsoft Store and the Mac App Store. He believes that the Epic Games Store should basically be the one store that rules them all. He says there's a store market, there's a payments market, there are many other related markets, and it's critical that antitrust enforcement not allow a monopolist in one market to use their control of that market to impose control over unrelated markets. So he's still going after Apple, right? Even though the verdict was pretty clear that he lost. And, I've seen in other articles, other versions of this, that he's basically saying if we don't have one app store to rule them all, the metaverse is impossible. That's I'm paraphrasing, but this is basically what he said. I'm curious what you guys think in terms of where Tim Sweeney's going with these attacks now. Like, what's the Jeff, go ahead.
I have a couple thoughts. So for one, we could start with the irony. I mean, obviously, the fact that he's saying, hey, Epic Games Store kind of solves this exact problem that I've now created. That's what a good pitch man does, create a problem and then solve it with your product. So whatever, put that to the side. I also think it's a bit ironic that he just sued Apple for being a monopoly, their app store for being a monopoly, but yet he's saying we need an app store that is a monopoly in order to sort of have this version of the metaverse. Having said all that, I don't necessarily disagree with him if we think about what the purest future form of a metaverse is. If we all eventually get to one singular place that we plug into every day and everything is there and we live in this virtual world, it sort of all needs to be connected, right? There needs to be one. This goes back to this debate of like, is it the metaverse or a metaverse? Like, will there be multiple metaverses where Microsoft has one and Grand Theft Auto is a metaverse and then Roblox has its metaverse and Epic has its metaverse? To me, that doesn't necessarily mean, like, that's not what I think the future that we've all pointed to of this one metaverse, even though I do think that's probably what it will end up being. So I think he's probably right. If we want to get to this pure nirvana that we've all pointed to, you kind of do need one app store that controls it all, so you can have digital transferability of goods between games. You have, everything in one central place, and yada yada yada. So those are my sort of musings there.
Lindsay or Jimmy, do you guys have other thoughts on this? Because I totally disagree with Jeff here.
Yeah, I mean, I fully disagree too. And the irony of it is just so palpable. I mean, I just don't think that you need one thing to do anything. And I think that's been proven over and over and over again. And I think that just as there's a bunch of social media apps that people check, there can be a bunch of different types of things that happen in the metaverse and different experiences that you log into and enjoy them for different reasons. I think it's silly to say that you need to have one central platform for it all.
I really like Fortnite. I really like Epic coming out and supporting blockchain gaming. I really don't like this post, and it just it's hard to support or to to think about all the times I've defended things coming out of that camp, God, I mean, we don't even need to revisit the irony part of it. It's just the store is like, people don't use the store. You can't even get people to use the store with free games. So how are you going to now say that your store is the perfect hub for the future iteration of digital society? It's just beyond me. I don't know. It's just like a lot of kicking and screaming and like, look at me, look at me. Whereas like the blockchain thing, I got your argument, Paul, that it was desperate, but at the same time, it was like, it at least facilitated something. It said, hey, if you can't go to Steam, come to us. At least there was a purpose there. This has no purpose other than for attention. So I also am with Lindsay where we don't know what this metaverse is going to look like. It would be awesome if it was like Ready Player One, which is the low-hanging example that everyone draws upon. But there's so many stores that people use for different purposes. Why would there be one digital world where everyone goes? There's so many streaming platforms that we all like to go to watch our creators, and it's good for competition. It's good for innovation, and it would be better for the metaverse, the multiverses, the meta multiverses, if that's going to be a thing. If not, I'm going to go coin that. Get my lawyer on the phone. But I think competition in any stage is good. So why would we have just one of anything or one place for all of these things?
Yeah, I don't know how many more examples I need to give on these shows of me calling things literally years in advance and being spectacularly right about. Like, the fact of the matter is Tim Sweeney's just wrong. Like, he's wrong. Capital W. He's just totally incorrect. Because if we believe the metaverse, even the one metaverse, Jeff, as you called it, right? Like the capital M metaverse, where the one true metaverse is something that comes to fruition, which I believe it will. And we believe that the metaverse is really just essentially a version of reality in the digital world, right? In the same way we have Lowe's and Home Depot, like app stores are no different, right? They're retail storefronts for games. Why should there be only one? We don't need only one for the metaverse to work. In fact, I think choice makes the metaverse more interesting, more diverse, more like, and I like the idea of retail, whether it's a retail of digital goods or retail of physical goods moving into the metaverse. And he's just totally wrong on this. Tim Sweeney couldn't be more wrong, couldn't understand this less. And the irony is he's a smart guy, right? Like he's built something really interesting. it's just totally blinded by his hate for Apple. Like, this is all emotion and ego at this point. There's no more reason left in this. And it's a bit frustrating because I don't think he's helping the cause, right? Because everyone recognizes the irony of this, right? Apple's a monopoly, destroy them. But we need only one app store for the metaverse. Like, it's just...
And it should be mine. That was my
should-
favorite part.
Yeah.
I'll just read some
But I
comments.
guess it
Yeah,
depends.
sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
So, because I still am not sure that I've been convinced. Like, I guess it depends what we're talking about with an app store, right? Like the way, because you sort of described it as like once you're in the metaverse, you have a lot of choices. That's the way at least I heard what you were saying. When I hear what I'm putting the words in his mouth from my head is that he's basically saying there's going to be one point of access to enter this metaverse, like one platform, and then within that platform you'll have all these different apps and whatever, but there ultimately has to be that one central, whatever you want to call it, headset you put on, or holodeck that you lay in. Like, there has to be that, otherwise there isn't this pure version of the metaverse. I don't know if you agree with that central premise.
It's a good point, and I take it, right? And I think even if you give him the benefit of the doubt that that's what he meant, which is not obvious from the quote, right? But even if you give him the benefit of the doubt, he's still wrong, right? Like, in the same way, I can drive to your house, Jeff, in a Honda or a Toyota, right? Like, either one will get me there. And so technologies can be very much built to be interoperable as long as you have some common frameworks. I don't think you need one starting off point. I don't think you need one app store. I don't think you need one headset. I don't think you need one of anything, right? I think choice is what will make this work, as long as there's some standards and interoperable standards. And that's not what he's saying here, right? Like, the reason why I can go shop at Lowe's or at Home Depot is because both take US dollars, right? The metaverse is going to need something like that, right? The metaverse, capital M, will need some kind of common currency that's accepted. We'll need some sort of common technologies at their base that are supported. But I don't think this is anywhere close to what he's saying in terms of, fragmentation of app stores. What he wants is Apple's monopoly destroyed in the way he sees it. That's all he cares about. I don't know if he truly cares about the metaverse.
But I want to underscore that he also wants his own put in. Like, as if it wasn't enough credibility to be destroyed, or as if it wasn't enough credibility to go after Apple over and over when like you lost, move on. It's the insertion of his own ideas as being the ultimate placeholder that just kills me. It's like you fought a losing battle, and I get that. Like, you still want to go after Apple, okay. But why are you saying we should be the ones leading it? Okay, then fine, do it and stop complaining, but stop ragging on other people's stuff. I don't know. It really rubs me the wrong way that he takes that extra step of pushing his own ideas.
And Lindsay, I have a related story here. I want your take on it because I think it's an interesting sort of dichotomy. Let me just read some of these comments. Let me get caught up on comments. Chris says, monopolizing the metaverse already. Of course, that's his goal, right? Like, he's got Fortnite. Of course, that's what he wants to do. Why does Jeff look like the cover art of Watch Dogs 2? Hold on.
New hat making waves.
That is actually funny. Do you know what he's talking about,
Hat
Jeff?
guy. I don't know the cover. I mean, I know what Watch Dogs 2 is. I don't know the cover art for it.
Here we go. Here we go.
I'll take it.
Matt says, Paul with the good haircut. Thank you, Matt. Can't wait for you to get in a cage match with Tim Sweeney. He doesn't stand a chance. I don't know if it needs to come to fisticuffs, Matt, but whether it's physical or verbal, you're right. He doesn't stand a chance. Matt says, Tim Sweeney's a toddler. It always seems like he's a day late and a dollar short when it comes to anything besides Fortnite. And I don't even know how much he has to do with that metaverse success. I mean, look, they built Fortnite. You got to give them credit there, but and he's made billions of dollars off of Fortnite and Unreal. So you always got to give credit where credit is due, but that doesn't mean he's right forever. Matt says, Mom, Apple is bullying me. Yeah, that does seem what it sounds like. Now, let me just introduce this second story, which I think, like I said, interesting sort of, if I can find the tab. interesting sort of story that goes next to this one. I cannot find the tab now. Oh yeah, here it is. And the headline is Netflix cozying up to Apple by letting it have a share of gaming revenue pie. And so Apple sort of Netflix taking the opposite stance with Apple, which I think interesting, right? Where they're perfectly happy to let users sign up for their games and their subscriptions inside of Apple's like in-app purchase system. So Apple is still taking a 30% cut from Netflix. Any thoughts, guys, on why Apple is sort of doing exactly the opposite here? Like, why cozy up? Why not join, Tim Sweeney's rebellion? Any thoughts on this? Lindsay, start with you maybe, because I know you had.
Well, to be fair to Netflix, obviously they're super new to the gaming space. So I think that, immediately pissing off one of the largest distributors is probably not the way to go when you're just entering a space. So that strikes me as, yeah, of course they're letting them take a 30% cut. Like Netflix just wants to get games out on to people's phones and have them try them. They're not going to alienate a large distributor. The second thing is, if Tim Sweeney really does want a one-stop shop, then two of the largest US tech companies uniting to provide better gaming services should be something that he's in support of. And we're talking about an entertainment company and what's largely a, hardware and distributor uniting in, I don't know if they're necessarily like doing anything for each other quite yet, but if they truly were to partner on something, then that would be exactly what he's saying. So either way, I don't, in comparison to Epic, this just doesn't stand a chance, but it is exactly what he's saying that he wants. So
it's an
Paul, could you just explain
loophole.
briefly what's going on here?
Yeah,
I kind of missed.
Let me
didn't really
give some
make
context.
sense when I read it. Yeah.
In 2018, Netflix shut Apple down. So in other words, you could download the Netflix app on your phone. You still can, right? But you can't sign up for a Netflix subscription inside the app because Netflix did not want to give their 30% cut to Apple. Okay. Yeah. When Netflix introduced games, it is a separate app that you download. Okay. So it's not the main Netflix app. It's a separate app. Okay. That app, you can sign up for a Netflix subscription through that app because to play the games, you need a Netflix subscription. It's no different than the video subscription, right? It's not a separate game subscription. And so in some ways it's a loophole. Like Netflix is okay with people downloading the games app and signing up for a Netflix subscription in app and giving the 30% cut to Apple. You can't do it in the main Netflix app, but you can do it in the Netflix games app.
That is interesting. Now it makes sense to me. I don't know what to make of that.
Is this purposeful, you think, or just
that was my
coincidental loophole in your mind?
I would assume, it's not like this just slipped through the cracks and like they didn't realize like, oh crap, like the developers put that in there, like damn. My cynical take is that they probably don't care because I doubt that this Netflix games thing is going to drive a single more subscriber. Like literally the overlap of people who are playing Netflix mobile games and who have a Netflix subscription already is a circle. Like the Venn diagram is literally a circle. It's there is not a single person who's like, oh my God, there's this new thing called Netflix that has games. Like, oh, and they do streaming video too. Like, this is great. I should sign up for it. Like, wow. So maybe they just didn't care, but I do agree. It's interesting. It's an interesting thing to note.
Yeah, I look at it.
The tone has softened, right, Jimmy? I don't know. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah. I look at it and I say two immediate things, right? Mobile's the future, gaming's the future. Obvious things that we know, things that we talk about each week, things that are being acknowledged here or at least asserted through mega business decisions such as this. The thing that I'm thinking of now is when do they allow subscription signups through the App Store on the main Netflix app? When do they reverse that policy or because that's really the logical next step.
Are you implying that?
That's what I'm implying. That's
why would they do that?
That's the point of interest to me because for the people that aren't Netflix subscribers I don't know, why would they do it on mobile, keep it off on their streaming service to get into more mobile hands, sure, to share revenue there, sure, but like as the world turns mobile, as we game, as we consume all of our content and all of our media on mobile, is Netflix eventually going to relax that as well for their other products? I don't know. That's what I'm looking at. And again, it's half baked and sounds half baked, but that's what I want to see happen here, or that's a bigger story to me, honestly.
The only, I guess, the math that they're doing, and I'm sure they have reams and reams of data, is like, how many people are they losing because it's an extra step, right? Like, are there a lot of people that are downloading the Netflix app on their phone, and then when they go to subscribe, it's like, okay, you have to go to the website to subscribe and come back. Like, if it shows they're losing a ton of people, and because of that extra friction, and it makes up for that 30% they're going to give away, then I think they'll eventually make that move. But 30% is a lot, so I don't know if they're losing enough people for that, to make sense, because that's the only reason why they would do it. Otherwise, it's like, there's no value to them in paying Apple if they don't have to.
They're not losing huge amounts anyways, right? Like Netflix is growing, continues to grow their subscriber base. It's not like there's massive amounts of pain. Antonio says streamers fighting each other is trending. Well, I don't know if me and Tim Sweeney would be categorized as streamers.
Content creators, celebrities, business titans,
multi-billionaires. Yeah, I don't think anyone would pay Antonio to watch me and Tim Sweeney go at it in a boxing ring. But who knows? Maybe some of you would pay.
I know a few.
I know you. Guys, let's switch gears here. And I don't want to pile on, because we pile on them so much, right? I want to try and keep this an interesting discussion. We teased it last week. We did touch on it a bit last week. But let me put 3 stories back to back here, and then I want people's comments, okay? And the first story here, let me get through them. First story is, sources say Vanguard was Call of Duty's worst UK launch in 14 years.
Called it.
It's down compared to previous years, and they're saying amid free-to-play alternatives and strong competition. But the numbers were not good, down 40% year on year, just compared to Black Ops last year. This is UK data, but we can assume translates pretty well to the US, okay? Second story. Again, I'm tying these things together. Maybe you guys think they're not related, but I'm curious to tie them together and get your thoughts here. Second story. Activision Blizzard no longer the most valuable gaming company in the US. This is now Roblox. So a combination of Activision Blizzard stock going down and Roblox stock going up. We now have a situation where Activision Blizzard's no longer the most valuable company in the US. This is a week old. Jeff, I know you're checking to see if that's still the case.
No, it's definitely still the case. I mean, Activision's gone down more and Roblox has gone up more. Roblox is like 72 billion now, which is crazy.
And then the third story, which is Xbox celebrates 20 years of gaming joy by making, this is from Xbox.com directly, let's just be clear. Xbox celebrates 20 years of gaming joy by making the Halo Infinite multiplayer beta available for everyone. And I'll add that free. So it was free. Mm-hmm. 3 stories here, guys. It's a CoD story. It's an FPS genre story. It's an Activision Blizzard story. I'm curious to get your thoughts. Jeff, I know this is something you know well. You know Activision's business really well. CoD, are you surprised at the CoD results? I know we don't have official numbers.
Yes. I mean, the fact that it's anything the worst in 14 years is clearly very bad, because, 14 years ago, the gaming population was significantly smaller. So that's very bad. If you told me it was down year over year, I think they had predicted that. Most people expected that. So that wouldn't have shocked me. Now, there's always some caveats with looking at a lot of this data. I think it's physical sales only, so you don't get some of the mix shift to physical to digital. I think that may have been PlayStation only. So, there's some skews in the data. But that's not to sugarcoat that clearly this COD launch is not, not doing well. What was interesting to me was actually after that story came out, I remember seeing, I think it came over the weekend, and I remember thinking wow, is Activision going to get hit on that? And they didn't really. So it might have been something where investors had already sort of priced in these worse results. Subsequently, they've gotten hit with some of these other stories the last few days, but yeah, people may have sort of been expecting a week launch. Jimmy, obviously, you had correctly pointed that out a few weeks back. So that's on the Activision side. On Roblox being the most valuable gaming company, to me it's still a little bit crazy, just given where they are, but they have the right demographic. Their unit economics are phenomenal. They sort of have showed continuing accelerating growth, and they're also aging up. So I know they just hosted Investor Day that I haven't gotten a chance to listen completely through on, but they talked a lot about aging up the user base, bringing in older players, and also retention being really strong. So like when someone joins when they're 10, they're still with them 3, 4, 5 years later when they're 15, and stuff like concerts and some of the Squid Games. They actually talked a lot about Squid Games bringing in an older audience, or that Squid Game thing. This is a little bit of a tangent, but the piece I thought was interesting, they talked about this on their earnings call, was how quickly that users were able to create that Squid Game content.
That's the example I mentioned, by the way. This was the precise one, because I think was blown away.
It's something where I'd never really thought about, and then I was reading this script and I was like, wow, that's actually amazing to think. Like, imagine if Activision today was like, hey, we want to create a new game. It would take 5 years before it came out. Like, Squid Games wouldn't even be on Netflix anymore. So it just shows the power of user-generated content and kind of the ability for these things to spin up pretty quickly. And then they tied that to brand activations, where like a brand can spin up very quickly, experiences on the platform. So all very cool stuff. Forgot what the last article was, but
it was
the
effective Halo, Jeff. But
you guys can
I just
talk about
press you on one thing, which is COD,
Sure.
The COD sales specifically. Do you think Activision Blizzard is facing a bit of a crisis moment where it's like COD has to go free to play or they're going to lose? Or do you think they stick to the model, the $60 box model for a while? Like, does their 3 studio model even support the ability for COD to go free to play? Or is it such large cost structure that they can't?
No, I think it does. I mean, I think I think they did a very good job of, and to be fair, Halo is sort of copying this model where it's like you create a free to play on ramp, and then people, last year you saw really strong sales of the game when they sort of were able to drive users from the free to play mode to the main game. So I think that will continue to be the model. Like, I don't see, if they already have a free to play version, like what would now making the main game free to play do besides cut out, $1.5 billion of sales? Like, what would they bring in more players? I don't know. You already have a free to play version and a mobile version that's doing incredibly well. So like, I don't know.
It's not the same game, right? Warzone's not COD multiplayer. And to
True.
be fair, Activision Blizzard doesn't have Game Pass. Like, I'm curious what you guys think in terms of, for Halo, how much of the Halo adoption is just going to be Game Pass subscribers? 50%, 80%, 20%? Like, where do you guys think that's going to fall? The entire player base of Halo, how many of those people are Game Pass? Jimmy, I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
I'd be surprised if it's more than 50%. I would say somewhere closer around 30, but that's me recalling a couple of stories about them missing their mark, right, on Game Pass subscriber growth over the last year. No, I mean, it's a good point. I mean, back to Jeff's thing about COD, for example, though, Warzone is free to play, right? And I mentioned that last week, that Vanguard and other COD titles are just to redirect that support into Warzone. You buy that game, you play it for the guns, and then you use the guns in Warzone, leveled up. I thought this was going to do poorly, and part of that, I think, is people are a little just sick of COD. I think they're a little tired of it, the cheating, all the scandal with Activision that we don't want to get into. But and then on top of that, you have other great games like Apex made a major resurgence, for a hot stint, because people still wanted to play FPS, they just didn't want to play Warzone. And now you have Halo come back, which is the title that, unless you're a hardcore PC gamer where you fell in love with CS:GO, if you were a console gamer, you fell in love with Halo. And So, when I said a couple weeks ago that, I'm not comparing these against each other, I'm comparing them against their franchises. Um, it's not a surprise for COD. I think the Halo free-to-play model, or at least this free open beta, is a really fun thing. It's a fun way to get people that maybe didn't buy Game Pass or didn't buy the title to test it out, to see that it's just as good as whatever they're playing, and that will definitely drive more sales or more Game Pass subscriptions. I don't see Microsoft is very clear, right, that they want this Game Pass to be their future of access to their titles. So I don't see them changing anything there other than perhaps more free to play betas, right, that give you a little weak sneak peek. Not to mention any XP that you get, anything you do in Halo right now in the open beta carries over into the full game. So, they clearly want to lure you in, as opposed to Valorant, for example, which all that was dead progress. So I thought that was an interesting difference between those two titles there.
I'm curious what everyone in the chat feels in terms of, now that we've seen some initial sort of, again, they're rumored numbers, right? These are not official numbers from Activision Blizzard. Now that we've seen some of this, what do people think in terms of the Halo versus COD versus Battlefield numbers? Like, I'm really curious in chat. I'd love anyone who's interested, like, give me the order you think in terms of sales now that you sort of know COD may be down 40% year on year. Jeff, what were you going to say? Yeah,
I still think Jimmy's right. I mean, mostly it's also just an unfair comparison. Halo's on one platform, so it can never, it literally just can't be bigger.
18 million people on Game Pass.
Just can't be. I mean, COD sells like 30 million units a year. So like, I just think it would be a massive, massive upset if Halo outsold COD. I still think I think Jimmy's right. It's COD, Battlefield, Halo, but COD obviously down, but still the biggest, I think. I mean, I don't know what do you
well, it's hard because we're talking about COD Vanguard, right, as opposed to COD franchise and COD Warzone, which Vanguard gets redirected into. So that's the hard part about it.
I wanted, Jimmy, could you give us, I mean, you had said like a week or two ago, whenever, that you didn't think Vanguard was going to have a successful launch, but can you remind me of why you thought that, aside from the cheating? I just wondered what went into that. I forget.
I've been a COD player for as long as I can remember, since probably one of the first CODs, and it's just they kind of have an interesting cycle. So for me, it was really just my my perspective or my experience as a fanboy of COD, and knowing that it's really hard to come out with so many great titles year after year, especially when you're rotating studios. I think each one offered something different. But I remember every cycle there would be one or two versions of the COD that of Call of Duty that I would really like, and one or two that kind of were clearly not for me. There were some of them were too futuristic, or the movement was too sluggish or choppy, or the menu system, or the customizations. They were just different preferences, I think, for different gamers that like those things. So I just remember in my history of COD that through these cycles of them rotating studios and putting out different products and different iterations, that I always would get hooked again temporarily for one or two, and then I would drop off. So I just saw this as that cycle kind of restarting over. And again, I played Warzone literally twice a week with my squad on our game nights for the better part of the last year. And we, not just us, but also you see it with the streamers, right? Just really getting fed up with it. So yeah, I just saw it it was more as a fan than anything else. That was my experience with it, and I think must be common for other people too.
Guys, I just want to catch up on some of these comments here. Antonio says, oh no, sorry, Goyo says, I'm way behind. Chris says, shocked Pikachu face. Shouldn't be too shocked, I don't think. I've been telling you Roblox was gonna be big. Goyo says, I wouldn't have guessed Roblox being the most valuable gaming company. Goyo, you're here every week. You hear me saying it's going to be bigger than Twitter.
Market cap's probably already bigger than Twitter.
It probably is, actually.
I think it is. Yeah.
That should have been my bet. UK equals CSGO. Activision Blizzard needs to be dissolved. Halo rules. Antonio, I think a lot of people are in your camp right now and would agree with you. Goyo says, I'll be playing Halo on Game Pass. I'm not surprised. Chris says Halo is going to sell hardware when it's available again, so things look good for Xbox. Also agree. If they have the hardware to sell, right, Chris? That's part of the problem. Chris says, will be interesting to see how many Halo players are on Steam versus Game Pass.
Definitely.
Curious what you guys think. Where will there be a bigger number, Steam or Game Pass?
Is Game
I'm
Pass
on
available?
No, it's its own. You have to download the Xbox.
Would it
app
ever?
program.
I mean, could it ever be available on Steam?
Not really. It's kind of
I
like
don't
its
know.
own store, right?
Yeah, it seems too different. I think it's going to be larger on Game Pass just because that's the culture of Halo gamers, right? They're mostly console gamers. And the gamers that I know that play Halo on Steam and on PC plug in controllers to play because of that nostalgia, because of that gaming culture. So I think it'll be much larger on Game Pass just from a cultural standpoint, not even from a like what's the audience on those two platforms.
I tend to agree with that. I think I agree. Lindsay, I don't know if you had a thought on that, but
Oh yeah, I was just going to agree with Game Pass.
Antonio says spot on, Jimmy.
Mhm.
Who says it's
Thanks.
tough to compare all of these games. Seems like each one has a problematic launch, except maybe Halo. I mean, Goyo, Halo has not been without criticism. Like the aim assist on Halo is on controller is maybe record breaking. Which, by the way, if you hate that, definitely go check out Business of Esports merch at businessofesports.shop. If you hate aim assist, make sure to pick up a Gamers Against Aim Assist t-shirt. And oh, there you go. There's Jimmy. I love it. Definitely go pick one up. They're a lot of fun. Let me just catch up here. Chris says you're overvaluing the hardcore scene if you think COD still isn't on top. Chris, I agree, but at some point, if you're dropping 40% year over year, like at some point you're not on top, right? At some point, a Halo or a Battlefield breaks through. COD is Madden of FPS; it's going to sell regardless. That I think everyone. Does anyone disagree with that here?
I do not. That's a great analogy. Oh, I may
Good
even say
analogy.
FIFA of FPS, but yeah.
COD equals EA Sports. I think you guys agree completely. Greg says, has there ever been a case when Game Pass or a similar platform automatically downloaded a game like Netflix is starting to do with movies? Could increase the numbers from Microsoft. Like forcefully download and install a game on your PC?
Like
Xbox?
that U2 album on all those iPods.
I think that would go over very badly with gamers. I don't know. What do you guys think? Jimmy?
I've never heard of a game that came pre-installed or pre-downloaded, but yeah, I mean, I would be upset.
Is Netflix doing this? Automatically downloading?
I didn't know that.
I thought Netflix was like streaming, isn't it? Like,
no, you can download. Like if you don't
can,
have
but
a connection.
yeah, I guess that's right.
I download for offline all the time on my iPad.
Well, for flights
all
and
the
stuff,
time.
yeah, for like
Yeah.
flights.
So Greg, I'm not.
It's a good idea, though.
I'm not sure. I think it's a terrible idea, though.
I love how I go. I think it's a good idea, Paul. I think it's a terrible idea.
It is a terrible idea.
We're on the same. We're really not on the same page tonight, Paul.
No,
This is like the new me and Will. It's like the new William. I don't know.
You
I don't
probably
like this.
leave McAfee antivirus installed on your PC.
Yeah, of course. I don't want a virus. Why would I? Actually, no. I keep getting these alerts that I don't. My subscription lapse, and it's like you are gonna get a virus. Like download this, but I don't. 'Cause I'm reckless.
I think gamers don't like things being forcefully installed. I think like the Xbox app that you need to use Game Pass with is actually horrible. So where I agree with Greg 100% is they have a huge amount of improvement they can do with their front end to get people to play more games on Game Pass. No question, there's a ton of ways they could improve that. Greg says Roblox market cap equals 72 billion, Twitter 40 billion. There you go, almost twice the size.
Wow.
That is
Crazy.
insane. That's impressive. The user numbers will get there too, Jeff. Don't worry. Chris
Not
says
in 2
Steam
years.
had 270K yesterday. Peak That's for Halo.
Wow.
So, I mean, with that data, does anyone think Game Pass won't be bigger?
It's Tuesday, but it's also launch day.
Chris says, what happens to CDL if numbers drop short term? I mean, CDL is going to suffer regardless of the COD player base, right? The problems with CDL aren't COD player base related, I don't think. Lindsay, do you have thoughts? Will CDL, like, if there are 40% fewer buying this year's COD, does CDL see 40% drop in there? Like, is it 1-to-1 in your mind? Is it?
No, not at all. I honestly think that Call of Duty could like do more work on its old games and update Warzone and not release a game year over year and probably retain a lot of its player base and the people who are interested in CDL. I'm not suggesting that as a strategy. I just think that they could if they wanted to.
You should suggest that. I love that.
All right, I'll call him tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, give him a call, Lindsay. Call him up. Hey, Bobby. Goyo says that was a smooth merch plug. Thank you.
It was.
That's why they pay me the big bucks here. Chris says Minesweeper all over again. Chris, you didn't uninstall Minesweeper though, because that's a little too far. That's going too far if you uninstalled Minesweeper.
If Minesweeper was like a lot of gigabytes, maybe.
I don't even think in the beginning you could uninstall it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even think it was an option.
Also,
it was
who
just part
wants
of the
to?
operating system.
What else do you do when you're bored?
Greg says it's move recommendations. They are down. It's move.
More. I think it's more.
Oh, it's more recommendations they are downloading. Got it. Yeah, I think recommendations is a good feature. I mean, it's definitely a good feature. Every good platform uses like, hey, you might also like. I mean, that Amazon was built on that. Julian says it's an opt-in feature. Well, I think that makes it okay. Chris says it's getting to a point where Paul can't keep up with chat. Signs of growth. It's true.
Yeah. We were really behind.
Thank you. Greg says, "Oh, movie. Sorry, it's movie recommendations."
Movie recommendations. Got it.
That I feel like I have issues with. I don't want movies being downloaded without my permission, my explicit permission. Clinton may have some thoughts on this. Hey, Clinton, how's it going?
Hey, Clinton.
Says, hi, guys.
Hey.
Clinton, do you want movies or games downloaded to your device forcefully, like without your explicit permission? Are you happy?
Like the U2 album.
Yeah, true. Music did it, but wasn't there a ton of backlash over that?
No one liked it. Yeah.
It was Apple who did it, no?
Apple did that. A lot of backlash for that. I just wanted to put a music reference.
Really,
I know Clinton will remember
really
that one.
aggressive way to describe it. Music, being downloaded to your device forcefully. Like, I don't know, like if it's like
So
that
intrusive.
It's not like that offensive. Like, oh, this game is here. I think if Xbox did it, where when you buy a new Xbox, it was already there. To be honest, I'd be happy because half the time, it takes like so long for some of these games to download. So like, if you just bought an Xbox right now, odds are you bought it because you want to play Halo. So I actually think that could be a good consumer experience. But I agree, like forcing, that's never good, never good connotation.
Oh, Goyo says forceful downloads is a horrible idea. Clinton says only pics of Jimmy gardening shirtless forced to my phone is acceptable.
Wish you would have been here earlier when he lifted his sweatshirt.
You missed his shirtless moment, Clinton.
Clinton, question: would you wear this hat? It's very important.
yeah. Clinton,
it is from Sweden.
Please don't say no. I know we don't know each other. It'd be very sad.
Please judge Jeff's hat.
You can ask Jimmy. I'm cool.
All right, guys. Let's
back to the stories.
Let's move on. Let's talk about a quick. Actually, let's do YouGov. For those of you who don't know, guys, this live stream is supported by YouGov. YouGov is a leading international research firm. They supply the best data on gamers, games, and esports fans around the world. They are tremendously generous supporters of the business of esports. And the cool part is we get all this very interesting data around gamers, gaming influencers. If you're new to the live stream, every week or every time we get this data, we do a YouGov Insights segment, which we're about to do. And so I'm about to show you guys, this is part 2. If you remember last week, we did part 1 of their YouGov Game Changers kind of research report. I will link in the chat where you can go get these. There's a 3-part series. They're making it all available for free. It's at yougov.com/business/gaming-esports. Sorry. I will link it in the chat. And I'm just going to bring this up here. Before I do that, I'm going to ask the question. So let's start off with an easy one here. When they looked at people who follow gaming influencers, male versus female, I'm curious if you guys think there's a disparity between male and female in terms of following of gaming influencers. And how big do you think that disparity is?
I mean, in raw numbers, I would assume that male would be bigger just because the male audience is larger. But when it comes to
No, as a percentage, Lindsay.
Yeah, percentage of each. I don't know. Like I feel like I could invent a story for either way. As in, like, female gamers are maybe a little bit more loyal because it's still a smaller, it's, you know, maybe a smaller, more niche hobby considered. But I don't know. I feel like I could invent a story for both sides.
Well, let me show you guys how the following of gaming influencers compares to other genres of gaming influencers as it relates to your gender, right? And so this slide I thought was very interesting where if you look here, so I'll make it a bit bigger, the gender profile of people who follow gaming influencers, 69% male, 31% female. And if you compare it to any other genre, it's the one where males represent the largest percentage of those who follow that kind of influencer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, just out of curiosity, really quick, was platform specified? Do you know?
No.
Okay, yeah, then this actually does make a lot of sense. I was kind of thinking only in terms of Instagram, but
whereas if you look at something like music, people who follow music influencers split right down the middle, right? Pretty much. Almost 50-50, where male and female follow music influencers equally. Anyone surprised that gaming's at the top here in terms of the most male dominated in terms of the following of influencers? And now let me just say, even though it is the highest, what I thought was interesting here was it's still 31% female, which I think goes against a lot of, like, people like to say, oh, this is a male, you know, very male dominated industry. The reality is 31% of the people who follow gaming influencers are female. So there's definitely a sizable female contingent there.
I think that's a good point. I would be very curious to see. I mean, we always talk about, you know, how the gaming market is definitely more gender diverse than people think. But I do think that stat often includes mobile gaming and maybe not what we would consider hardcore gaming. And the only reason I bring that up is because those are typically the people, you know, hardcore gamers are typically the ones that are watching gaming content on Twitch. You know, they're following gaming influencers. So I'd be super curious to see how that 69-31 breakdown relates to, like, literally something like the player base of CoD or, like, you know, Halo player base. It's probably fairly similar. Maybe I'd be curious.
Well, so here's the second question. Do you guys think it changes if instead of looking globally, talk only about US teenagers? Do you think gaming loses, like, stays in that top spot? Do you think the percentage has changed drastically?
I wouldn't think drastically, but I've also been wrong about every single one of these. So if I'm wrong again, I won't be surprised.
Let me show you this one. So this is just US teens. Same slide, like same study, but it's limited to just US teenagers. You'll see gaming is still the second biggest, but the two that sort of dominate from a male perspective are sports and gaming. So men will follow, like, male US teenagers will follow gaming influencers and sports influencers in much larger proportions than women, than female.
And fitness too,
teens.
which is interesting. I don't know
But
what we draw into that, but
ones that were like 50-50 when you look up above, like music, all of a sudden are more female dominated, right? From a influencer following standpoint, which I thought was interesting. Gaming gets more male, but other mediums get more female. Lindsay, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it's fine. Sorry for cutting you off there. But yeah, because even the celebrity disparity, the reality TV disparity skews heavily different. And I will say one of the reasons I think that is because whenever I read the word influencer, I automatically only think of Instagram. And the reality is obviously that there's a billion other platforms, especially around the world, where people can and do follow different types of influencers. So that's my own bias coming out for sure. But I think definitely like when you talk about platforms like YouTube, I would guess and Twitch, another huge one. I would guess that a lot of the people that are on there are male and are following gaming influencers. So it's just like these things are always so interesting because especially when you zoom in and zoom out from global to domestic, it like totally changes the conversation. And it also shows how much of a US based view I have and how Instagram is obviously the first thing that I think of and the only thing that I think of and can invent stories for what's happening on there, but am not exactly tuned into what's happening on other platforms.
So guys, let me bring up the next one. This next one is complex. Okay. I think there's a lot of ways we can break this down, but it was the most shocking to me. And I'm really curious if you guys are shocked also. Okay. And this one is, they looked at the followers of gaming influencers. Okay. So we're narrowing in on this group of people. So people who follow gaming influencers around the world. Okay. And within that group of followers of gaming influencers, how many of those people considered themselves light gamers, moderate gamers, or heavy gamers? In other words, played less than 2 hours a week, played 3 to 10 hours a week, or played 11 plus hours a week. Okay. So we're looking at essentially some correlation here between people who follow gaming influencers and how much they play themselves, which is
this sort of is exactly what I was looking to dig it, double click into before. So I'm going to guess that it's skewed to the hardcore gamers, but again, we're always seem to be wrong here.
I'm going to guess the opposite.
Well, this is by country too. So we can see the US relative to other
slicing and dicing the data here.
Nice. And so when I bring this up, take a look at this. Okay. On the left-hand side, you see Germany. Okay. In Germany, 50% of the followers of gaming influencers are heavy gamers.
Wow.
If you compare that to the US, it's almost half. When you look at the number of people who follow gaming influencers who are also heavy gamers. The US is much more dominant in that moderate gamer kind of segment. I'm curious, Jeff. You said this is something you.
I think it's really interesting. I wasn't even thinking the country angle. It's I don't know what to make of that, but it's striking to see that difference. That is a big difference.
I can't believe you guys
I'm struggling to say
something
intelligent about what I guess the question for you, turn it back on you, but what if you're a brand or something, what's your takeaway? What's your actionable takeaway? How would you use this data? I guess it's super interesting, but I'm trying to figure out what we can do, what's an actionable thing we can glean from it, if you have any. I don't know.
I do. Let me just get Lindsay's comment first, and then I'm going to answer that question, Jeff.
Yeah, I also have an answer to that.
Okay, and go ahead.
That people like gaming as a form of entertainment, as a form of both passive entertainment and active entertainment, but that the sit back experience with gaming is just as key and important as the interactive sit down and play experience. So as a company, this is a huge chance to get in on some of the content and be able to, pay for sponsorships and advertisements in sit back experiences. And that's what I take away from it. But I can't believe that this is a surprise to you guys. I totally thought that this would have been skewed towards the light and moderate. The exact breakdown.
I just thought of one before I forget. And Paul, this might be something you had already thought, but maybe that something you could, if you're a brand, you could take away, or an agency. You say, hey, if you are an endemic sponsor, you may want to sponsor German gaming influencers, versus if you're a non-endemic sponsor, you're more interested in US gaming influencers, because clearly maybe they're not as heavy gamers. They're more, they're doing more outside of gaming. There's a little more leisure time that you can attack there, versus Germany. It's hey, if you're selling mice and keyboards, you would be crazy not to be, using a German gaming influencer, because their audience is just the perfect hardcore gaming audience.
Super insightful, both of you guys. But like Jeff, I completely agree. That is one way you can slice and dice this and have a real tangible takeaway. Because if you do sell mice and keyboards, Germany's the place to be, right? Through influencers, because 50% of the people who follow an influencer in Germany, right, are going to be hardcore gamers. I think the big actionable takeaway from this is there is most definitely correlation between following a gaming influencer and playing more, right? That there seems to be direct correlation, that if we add moderate and heavy together, right, and call these people regular gamers, there's most definitely a correlation between people who follow influencers and play. And so there's definitely actionable data there in terms of the kinds of activations you do, how you involve gamers in those marketing campaigns. You don't assume they're just watching and following blindly. You have to assume they're playing also. So I do think there's a lot that's actionable there, especially as you pointed out, country by country. Let me just read some of these comments because I'm behind. Chris says, can anyone name one German esports athlete? I mean, to be fair, Chris, they're just saying anyone in Germany who follows a gaming influencer, not necessarily a German one. Chris says, guess big is really big. The Berlin International Gaming org. Antonio says, there's the proof right there. Americans are getting lazy. That is, that is an interesting takeaway, that Americans would rather consume gaming content, right? If we extend the idea of following a gaming influencer, that you're consuming their content, than play, right? Rather than play, compared to Germany, where there's more playing than consuming, maybe. That is an interesting sort of way of looking at it. All right, guys, I think I'm going to do one more here because I want to save some for the next week. This looks at gaming devices, okay? And again, we're slicing and dicing here, looking at two groups of people. Gamers, in other words, people who play 1 hour or more per week, and gaming influencer followers. Okay, so people who follow any gaming influencer, one doesn't matter, okay? And when we look at what devices they're playing, those two groups, if you look at smartphones, tablets, about equal, right? So a gamer and a gaming influencer follower will use these devices in about equal quantity. When you look at desktop or laptops like PC, gaming influencer followers will play significantly more on these devices than just a gamer. Also with game consoles, similar disparity. Also with handheld devices like a Switch or whatever. And to a smaller extent, maybe VR headsets. But what's interesting is on mobile, they're on par. 3/4 of gaming influencer followers use their smartphone, tablets for gaming, on par with all gamers. But when we look at other devices used, those who follow gaming influencers are considerably more likely to use PCs, gaming consoles, and other devices. So the fact that you follow a gaming influencer, we can conclude that you use things, that you're more likely to use devices like a laptop, a console, or a dedicated gaming handheld, which I think is interesting. Because
so we assume that the pink is people who are gamers but don't follow.
Correct.
The green is
gamers, just general.
But it wouldn't include a gamer who's a gaming influence follower, or is the pink like everyone?
The pink.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a good. The pink, I believe, is everyone. Is anyone who calls himself a gamer. So it would include.
So the pink includes the green as well, obviously.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, I think what's interesting.
Didn't change my answer. I was just curious.
No,
sorry.
From a marketing and actionable standpoint, I think what's interesting here is if you're looking to market your product, right? In some ways, like you said, Jeff, depending on the product, if it's not mobile related, leveraging gaming influencers seems to be more effective, right? I think we can conclude that that's a more target-rich audience if you're looking to sell through to people on those platforms.
Yes, I think it kind of goes. This is the second derivative of sort of what I think we deduced with the last chart is, and maybe this again is something that what I love about YouGov is they take these things that like we sort of know to be true, but they prove it. Which like if you're a brand and you're an app, someone like selling, or if you're someone trying to convince a brand to spend dollars, like it's not easy enough to have like you can't just have the profit come in and say, hey, if you follow influencers, you're probably more hardcore and you spend a lot on gaming. Like, you know, they might trust the profit, but like normally, you know, CMOs are going to want a little more data and rigor behind that. So like these two things show that, right? Like, I think this is just following that same thing. It's, hey, if you follow these influencers, you're more hardcore. You also buy more, you know, buy more peripherals, play more on, you know, PC hardcore things. So yeah, love it. I don't know. That's my takeaway, at least.
Yeah, no, guys, that, like I said, this was part 2 of their 3-part series on gaming influencers. Definitely go check them out. YouGov.com/gaming-esports. You can download part 1 and part 2 for yourself if you want to go through it. We will do there's a lot more in part 2 that I want to cover next week. So we will cover it then. We covered part 1 last week. If you want to go rewatch that, if you weren't watching it live. But just definitely go show YouGov some love. The data is amazing, super actionable. If you're looking to reach gamers, the gaming audience, you're operating in and around gaming or esports, you definitely want to be talking to them. You can reach out to them directly, reach out to me, to Jimmy. We can plug you in with them. And we appreciate their support of the business of esports and of this live stream. All right, guys, let's do a little bit more light story here. I'm a bit disappointed Jimmy's not wearing his Balenciaga Fortnite hoodie because this would have been very apropos. And the headline here is check out Gucci's Xbox console and gaming package limited to 100 sets. So Gucci is doing this collaboration. It's an Xbox with a unique Gucci pattern design on it, controllers with the Gucci pattern, and a carrying case that says Xbox with the Gucci pattern. And 100 numbered sets will be available for $10,000 each. Okay. And, you know, obviously they're numbered the whole bit. It's a very luxury experience. I'm showing you guys all the pictures here with the green on the inside and good game on the other side. So this is being offered from Gucci, $10,000, 100 sets. Jimmy, are you a buyer?
I think we all know who the 100 buyers of this are, and it's kind of dumb that it's not a lower price point, a wider product category, and 10,000 limited pieces that provide more accessibility. I'm not scoffing or upset with the elitism behind it. It's more so that there was a huge opportunity to do something very cool, you know, with more products, with hoodies, with not just the Xbox carrying case that you never use. It just sits in your room the way like maybe Louis hard luggage would sit there as a piece, right? That some people do. Yeah, I know those kinds of things. So I'm upset that like it's just so small. Like we're gonna do this huge cool collab with Gucci, and the coolest thing about it, I think, is how exclusive they're making it. I would rather see a bunch of Xbox Gucci hoodies. I would rather see a bunch of Xbox Gucci backpacks in like a wider product catalog, product offering of product. So
You're not excited
I'm not gonna.
about this, Jimmy.
Well, I don't play console anymore, and that console is going to be irrelevant in 5 years. So why am I going to spend that kind of money on it? It's dumb.
Well, why do people buy Hermes Apple Watches?
Also dumb. Also, that 24
At
karat.
least you can wear that.
At
least you can wear that every day.
Yeah. And the Hermes one, you can actually snap off the bracelet and then put it on the new Apple Watch. Perhaps I don't know, but that's dumb. The gold Apple Watch is dumb. This is dumb. You guys, if you disagree with me, you're dumb. No, I'm going to stop there. I'll stop there. But I normally like these things. You guys know, like the intersection of gaming and fashion and gaming and pop culture, because fashion with hip hop in fashion with other, fashion was one of those entry points. And I've seen a lot of them make a lot of sense and be very cool. I've supported a lot of them. This is a missed opportunity to me.
Lindsay, tell Jimmy he's wrong.
I was actually going to a little bit. So no, Jimmy, I think you do make a really good point in that this definitely could have been a lot different than what it was. But these brands are also high fashion and made to be extremely exclusive status pieces. And that's exactly what they did here. Does that not mean that they could have done more and served the audience better by doing a more inclusive, collaborative, bigger, easier, more accessible design? Yeah, they absolutely could have. They could have gone the Balenciaga route, but they didn't. They chose to be high fashion designer. And like anyone who buys a high fashion designer piece that's not made for wearing is doing it as a status symbol anyway. So why not? I mean, this is going to sell out. There's no question about it. And people are going to use this for 3 months and then it's going to go in the back of a closet somewhere and show up again on eBay and we're all going to laugh about it. This is just the exact cycle that I think that super high fashion can go through because of its exclusivity and its brand promise. And they can't if they want.
Who buys these 100, Lindsay? Who are the buyers here?
I think that there'll be people in Asia, like in the Asian audience, that'll definitely jump on it because there's
like
just
collectors or like a billionaire buying for his kid for Christmas.
Definitely, yeah. Definitely people buying for their kids. Definitely people in like Abu Dhabi. Yeah. Definitely celebrities and influencers.
Yeah.
The real question, I mean, who's going to buy the other 96?
I mean,
there's only 96 left.
After we,
and I'm actually buying 2, so there's only 95.
Crap.
Need one in each, in my bedroom and in the living room.
Figure Bradley.
Guys, you're all wrong about this. It's totally genius, and I'll tell you why. Right? What the gaming space needs more of are billionaires looking to spend their money in the space, right? And what better way than to get them introduced to the space than with like a ultra exclusive collab like this, right? They're buying a Gucci Xbox for their kid at Christmas, and then they're like, this gaming thing, like maybe I should invest millions of dollars in this gaming thing, right? Like why not? Why are they not good enough to have a product to reach just to that 100-person audience? I get we want to make gaming accessible to everyone, but why are the billionaires left out here? Why are we
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Why are we discriminating against them?
This is who they're serving.
I feel like if those billionaires want to get into gaming, they're probably going to buy a regular Xbox first and see if it's for them before they know the value of $10,000 more than anyone else will. I feel like they're the last ones to be buying this.
This is true. I'm just being facetious. Gregor says, "Hey, Gregor, how's it going? How many are you guys buying? I think one each at least.
Depends on how many
gifts."
Yeah, how many Paul S's expense?
Chris says, I got a guy in Vegas who does that with cars, calling him now for a profitable business of esports play. I love it, Chris. Let's do it.
There's a lot of ways that sentence could have gone when it started with, I got a guy in Vegas. Luckily, stayed on the right
says
side
he has a
of
guy
the
in
line.
Vegas, though. You know he has a guy in Vegas.
We do.
Antonio says the laziness is blowing my mind, and again, Jimmy's spot on. It's a little lazy. They could have made 10,000 sort of cooler. Not you don't need the custom luggage and stuff.
Yeah,
like
but
that,
they don't have to do that either. They can do whatever they want. It's Gucci.
It's true. It's true. Antonio says the real question is, do you play on that console? I mean, if you buy it and don't play on it, that seems like a real waste.
Then you're definitely dumb.
Because it's obsolete in like 3 years. Technically, the console's obsolete as soon as it drops because it's all old PC hardware. Chris says, except that market usually gets these for free for the exposure. Drake ain't buying this. He getting it gifted. That's
True.
actually a great point. How many of these go out as gifts?
20.
20? Okay.
20%. No.
Let's move on, guys. I'm doing 2 stories back to back here on hardware stuff. We have for those who are new, who are maybe watching, we are the world's biggest sort of journalists and experts covering the gaming chair market. There's not a single gaming chair story we don't do here. And this one, Lindsay, I want your take on this one specifically because you're quite tall, for those who have not met Lindsay in real life. And so this story I thought was interesting. Secret Lab really built its extra small gamer chair that started as an April Fool's joke. The Titan XXS will be
Cute.
available for pre-order in limited quantities. It's the Secret Lab extra, extra small. Originally, like I said, this was the joke. It was a scale like model collectible, but they're actually going to release this chair. And I will tell you, but Lindsay, I want your thoughts. And you may disagree. I know I want you to disagree with me. There is a market of people who are a foot shorter than you are, who this may serve perfectly. So tell me I'm wrong here.
Yeah, they're called children. It's perfect. It's baby's first gaming.
Yeah, Paul
chair.
doesn't really know that. I understand that.
No, so this is great because I don't think anybody really knows this outside of my family, but I am actually an avid tiny chair collector. I have
No
two
way.
nephews and I have collected them I have 2 armchairs, a rocking chair, and a tiny wicker chair. So I think a gaming chair is actually a great addition
got
to
a
this
tiny chair
collection
for
of
you,
tiny
Lindsay.
chairs. Yeah.
What do you
Bradley
think?
can sit in
Would
it,
that fit
Jack-
in
What
your
are the
collection? Oh, there's
chances, Lindsay,
Bradley,
that
too.
you're a tiny chair collector
Yeah.
of all things?
I know. Who would have thought? So you
Would that work in
yeah,
your
I'm the
collection,
wrong
Lindsay?
person
It's
to
pretty
disagree
small.
with you.
It's pretty small.
I love that you love it. And you know what? I don't think we need to say more than that. Lindsay and Jeff love it as tiny chair collectors. I mean,
Everyone
we're
has a
going with
thing,
it.
Paul.
I think as just for fun, one day we'll film a whole episode with all 4 of us in tiny chairs or something, just for the memes. We'll
I
all
would
look
absolutely
gigantic.
do that.
But all right, guys, let's do one last hardware story. I promise, one last one here, and this is Steam Deck getting pushed back. I think we teased it. We talked it was
Yeah.
mentioned last week. There was not the official story came out about a week ago, so we're covering it here. Pushed back 2 months. Should we be worried? Is what I'm curious. Jimmy, your thoughts on this? Will Valve deliver on Steam Deck, or is this the beginning of sort of multiple delays?
2 months is not that long, I don't think. I didn't read the article, so I don't see the reason for the delay. If you know that, Paul,
Supply
off the
chain.
top. Supply chain. So I mean, it's COVID, and that's anyone that's tried to remodel their house or order a Christmas present, or that lives in Los Angeles and can see all the shipping freighters off the coast. We know that supply chain's a legitimate excuse, here. I'm not concerned by it. I'm definitely not happy because I want to get a Steam Deck and play it. But I don't. It's not like those other delays that turn into more delays that are given vague excuses as to brand or redirecting or scrapping ideas and pivoting. Supply chain, if that's true, that's reasonable and it doesn't give me much concern. It's just unfortunate.
So the only because this is a live stream, we always have to have a devil's advocate. So I'll be the devil's advocate. The only reason why I think this is important is because of the 2 months that it is. It was supposed to come out in November, December, and now it's coming out in January or February.
Yeah.
That's
It's missing the holiday. Yep.
That's huge for consumer hardware. Obviously, when you're trying to sell it to kid, it was
how
a
many
perfect
people-
gift or whatever. So, yeah,
Jeff,
that's the only
what-
reason why it's concerning.
What do you think that sales chart looks like? Meaning pre-orders versus like people who are buying it now. Like who's spending money now, thinking they were going to get it for Christmas?
That's a good question. I don't know, how much of it's direct to consumer, how much of it was, the retail channel where they might have been selling a lot through Best Buy or GameStop or whatever. And now those retailers are cutting back their orders because they're missing the Christmas window, or or Valve is having to discount because, these companies are saying, well, we missed Christmas. So now we're going to have to, we're going to sell it for less because, it's not the holidays. That's obviously all inside baseball and nothing we could know. Clearly, this is not Valve's fault. This is happening everywhere. We're all aware of that from a bigger, macro perspective. But it is important just because it is those 2 months and it's a consumer electronic. Like this is when people buy consumer electronics.
So no one believes, Lindsay, back me up on this. No one believes that there's a chance that come October of next year, there's still no Valve Steam Deck out.
Oh, there's 100% a chance. I mean, it's amazing to me that as people in the gaming industry, where we've seen games get delayed for God knows what, for God knows how long, that you guys are like, oh yeah, it'll happen when the supply chain picks up.
Yeah, like this is my feeling. I'm glad, Lindsay, you agree, right? Like 2 months, if it's truly a supply chain problem, 2 months seems like
Too short.
Yeah, a conservative estimate here of a
Yeah.
delay.
Yep.
Right? Like if there's really a problem,
See, this is what I don't understand about the gaming industry, because you know that games are never going to come out on time. I'd always be like, you know what, this game is going to be ready in 20 years. And then when it's ready in 8 months, people are like, wow, so exciting. They got to use this to their advantage a little.
Yeah,
more.
you'd be great at running a business, Lindsay. Oh, we're gonna get it out in 20 years. We got this.
Hello.
Your investors will love that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Nintendo just did it last week, right?
They did.
20XX. I mean,
Yeah, they did. They did.
I'm actually Nintendo's PR guy. Forgot to tell you guys.
yeah, that's it. In secret.
Everyone needs a good press release guy.
Greg says, give Lindsay the tiny chair. I'll take the Gucci Xbox.
That's a fair trade.
Greg.
All right, guys. We have other stories this week, but that's about our time. And plus, I will say the reason why I'm saving some of these stories is we made an announcement this week. I will just mention it. The announcement was we're going to come out with 3 new shows. 3 new shows. One called Meta Business. It'll be a podcast. It'll be a show. It'll be Jeff and I talking. If you love the juice, it's going to be me and the juice head to head talking about the biggest business stories of the metaverse. So anything intersecting gaming and crypto, gaming and blockchain. Some of the stories that maybe we would cover here, we're going to cover in more depth on Meta Business. Maybe the one I'm most excited about, though, no offense, Jeff, is Lindsay's new show, Meta Woman. And Lindsay has put together a lineup of some of the most amazing women, female executives operating in and around gaming in the metaverse. It's an incredible show. All of this coming like so soon. You'll see announcements. Follow us on all the Business of Esports socials for now. We will announce when all the new shows drop. It'll be everywhere you get the current shows, basically. And I think you guys are going to love them. So that's what you have to look forward to. And it's going to be a ton of metaverse content, which we're really excited about, but still the format that all of you know and love from Business of Esports. So super excited, super proud of the team. The people you see here all were intimately involved, obviously, in this. And so I'm incredibly appreciative of all of them. Chris says, always appreciate the education. Have a happy Thanksgiving, non-Canucks. Wow, I feel really left out.
Chris, we do
Chris
a Thanksgiving Eve show.
New G4, love it, and congrats. Chris, we've had this in the works so much long before the Meta rebrand, before, in fact, long before some of these, but I appreciate the comparison and I appreciate the kind words. Hopefully you guys really enjoy the content because we're going to have a lot of fun making it. Jeff, sorry, I cut you off. What were you saying?
I don't know. I was saying, Chris was saying Happy Thanksgiving, but I'm saying, we do a Thanksgiving Eve show, as far as I'm aware. We did one last year, so we'll be here next Wednesday.
We will be here next Wednesday.
We will.
We are not gonna. We don't. The show. This is the show business, right? The show goes on. There's no. Even if it's me doing this by myself, there's no.
And traditionally, that's one where we enjoy a nice Scotch during, or those of us that drink.
Eggnog and
last year I
brandy,
got kind of lit, so the taste is even hotter.
Jeff, I'm gonna expect that for this year. That's gonna be my Thanksgiving present.
I definitely think we should do something with chat next week. Actually, maybe it's a fun idea. Some kind of drinking game where Jeff has to take a shot or something.
Oh God.
Or
like Chris last
some
week,
kind of
metaverse
Business of Esports bingo or something like that. We'll do a giveaway maybe. So we'll think of something fun for everyone who comes for next week's show right before Thanksgiving. But we appreciate all of you, everyone in the chat, Lindsay, Jeff, Jimmy, all of you guys. Can't thank you guys enough. And check out the podcast this week, guys. It was really fun, and we appreciate all of you. We will see you all next week.